All right, let's talk about Apple's next budget iPhone, the 17e. There are some really exciting rumors flying around that it's finally going to get a huge design upgrade. But, and there's always a but, right? It looks like there might be a hidden catch.
I mean, you know the feeling, right? You've probably thought about it. For years, if you wanted the more affordable iPhone, you kind of had to accept that it looked, well, a little dated. It was a great phone on the inside for sure, but it just didn't have that fresh, new flagship feel. And that's really been the whole problem, hasn't it? The deal with Apple's cheaper iPhones has always been that they use older designs. So you'd have this noticeable gap where your new phone felt a bit behind the times compared to the top-tier models, even if the performance was still pretty solid.
Okay, but it looks like all of that might be about to change. A brand new rumor is pointing to Apple finally fixing this with the iPhone 17e, which we're expecting to see sometime in the spring of 2026. So this leak actually comes from a source on Weibo who goes by Smart Pikachu, great name by the way, and they're reporting that Apple is planning a huge shift. We're not just talking about moving a button or something. This sounds like a total change in philosophy for their entry-level phone.
So what's the biggest change we're hearing about? Get this, it's ditching that old-school wide notch and finally getting the dynamic island. This is a massive deal, you guys. It would mean the entire iPhone lineup would finally have that same modern, unified look.
Imagine that on its 6.1-inch screen, a dynamic island. It would instantly give the phone this sleek, really contemporary feel. It wouldn't look like the budget option anymore. It would just look like an iPhone, plain and simple. It's all about bringing everything into that one cohesive design family.
And the good news doesn't even stop with the display. Oh no, there's another premium feature that's supposedly making a comeback, something that was weirdly missing from the iPhone 16e.
Yep, we're talking about MagSafe. You know, that awesome magnetic ring on the back of the iPhone? It's what makes wireless charging way faster and just work better. Plus, it lets you snap on all kinds of cool accessories. Having that back would be a seriously welcome upgrade.
Okay, so let's recap. You've got a modern screen, the dynamic island, and the convenience of MagSafe. It sounds like Apple is finally building the perfect budget phone with no compromises. But that sounds a little too good to be true, doesn't it?
And that leads us to the big question. What's the catch? Because when you get all these awesome design upgrades on a phone that's supposed to be cheaper, you just have to wonder, where's the trade-off?
Well, according to that same leaker, there is a catch. And it seems like all these amazing upgrades to the outside might come at the cost of what's on the inside.
The leak specifically says there will be, and I'm quoting here, performance compromises that may disappoint enthusiasts. So what does that actually mean? Well, it probably means it won't get Apple's newest, fastest chip. Maybe it'll get the processor from the previous year's iPhone, or maybe a little less RAM than the top-end models.
So what this really does is it sets up a classic choice for anyone thinking of buying one. Do you care more about how it looks on the outside or how it performs on the inside?
So let's just lay it all out. On one hand, you gain a totally modern design with the dynamic island and MagSafe. It finally gets that premium, up-to-date look we've all wanted. But on the other hand, you might lose out on that top-of-the-line performance that real power users crave. You know, Apple could be making a bet here, a bet that for most of us, how a phone looks and feels day-to-day matters more than having the absolute fastest chip on the market.
And that really just leaves one big question for you to think about. When you're buying a more affordable iPhone, what's more important to you? Is it the look or is it the power? Do you want a device that looks and feels premium or one that has the absolute best performance possible for that price? It's a really interesting choice, and it's one Apple might be forcing all of us to make very soon.